What if everything you've been taught about dating is completely backward? You've been told to show interest, to make your feelings clear, to go for it, but here's the truth. Nobody tells you the moment you chase, you lose leverage. In fact, the harder you try to get his attention, the faster he emotionally checks out. Why? Because attraction isn't built by proving your worth. It's built when you stand in your power and let him come to you. This video isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the emotional dynamics that trigger a man's instinct to pursue. There's a psychological switch in his brain, a deep primal response that gets activated only when you show up in a specific way. Calm, confident, a little mysterious, and fully rooted in your own value. Think of this like flipping a magnet. When you reverse the energy, he feels the pull. He becomes curious, invested, even a little obsessed, not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. So if you've ever wondered why he ghosted after showing so much interest, why he said he wasn't ready, or why he lost excitement over time, this video is your wake-up call. Because when you stop chasing and start attracting, everything changes, fast. This isn't a gimmick. It's the strategy emotionally intelligent, self-respecting women are already using. And once you master it, he'll chase you for life. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating moments in modern dating, when a man who was once fully engaged, calling, texting, showing up, suddenly becomes cold, distant, or worse, completely disappears. You're left wondering, what did I do wrong? Or even worse, was he faking it all along? But here's the truth that very few people will tell you. Most men don't pull away because of something you did wrong. They pull away because of what they start feeling, and they don't know how to process it. In the early stages of connection, there's chemistry, excitement, novelty. Everything feels effortless. But as emotional intimacy begins to build, something shifts inside a man. That vulnerability, the feeling of being seen, needed, or even dependent on someone, can trigger what's called attachment fear or emotional self-protection. And this is where he starts to back away. Now here's where most women unintentionally make things worse. They try to close the emotional gap by chasing more effort, more reassurance, more contact. Why? Because we're taught that communication and emotional expression are healthy, and they are, but only when it's mutual. When you chase a man who's pulling away, you're reinforcing his subconscious fear that he's losing his autonomy, and so he runs even faster. So how do you flip it? You do the opposite of what your instincts scream at you to do. You don't double text. You don't send a paragraph explaining your worth. You don't ask what's wrong or try to fix it. Instead, you pause. You breathe. You match his energy, not as a game but as a reclaiming of your emotional boundaries. You go back to what made you magnetic in the first place. Your focus on your own life, your peace, your passion. The very energy that attracted him before he ever had your full attention. Here's the secret. When a man pulls away, he's watching to see what you'll do. If you panic, he feels pressure. If you stay poised, confident, and grounded, he begins to question his own retreat. He wonders, why isn't she chasing me? Did she lose interest? What if someone else sees her value before I do? That uncertainty creates emotional tension, and that's what draws him back in. But you're not doing this to manipulate. You're doing this because you understand your worth isn't measured by his attention. And when you operate from that place of quiet strength, you naturally reverse the power dynamic. He doesn't chase because you played hard to get. He chases because you stopped proving you were worth chasing and started living like you already are. In the next section, we'll break down the psychological trigger that turns this moment of distance into a permanent emotional hook, the exact mindset that makes you unforgettable. Stay tuned, because once you understand this shift, he won't just come back, he'll stay. So now that you understand why men pull away, how do you get them to stay, not out of obligation, but out of deep emotional investment? It comes down to one powerful concept, the psychological trigger of earned value. This is the key, and once you understand it, it will completely shift how men respond to you for life. Here's how it works. Humans are hardwired to value what they believe they've worked for. It's rooted in basic behavioral psychology. When something comes too easily, whether it's money, validation, or affection, we subconsciously devalue it. But when we feel like we've had to earn it, our brain assigns higher emotional worth to that person or thing. This is the exact same principle that makes men chase and stay hooked. If a man feels he got you too easily, his brain labels the experience as rewarding, but replaceable. It doesn't mean he's cold or malicious. It just means the psychological stakes were too low. But if he feels he had to invest emotionally, to prove himself, to stay consistent, to meet your standards, he doesn't just want you, he becomes attached to the process of having you. That's what creates lasting obsession. Not games, not overgiving, not even how beautiful or talented you are. It's how he perceives your value, and whether or not he believes he earned access to it. So how do you activate this trigger? You subtly, consistently communicate that while you're open to love, you're not desperate for it. You're not waiting around to be chosen. You're the one doing the choosing. This doesn't mean being cold, rude, or detached. It means showing up with soft confidence, warm, kind, but firm in your standards. You take your time to respond. You don't reveal everything at once. You don't rush intimacy, emotional or physical. You give space for him to step up instead of filling in the gaps yourself. This creates what psychologists call positive tension, a mix of curiosity, uncertainty, and emotional investment. And this is where real attachment begins. He starts wondering, what is it about her that makes me want to try harder? Why do I think about her even when she's not around? Why do I feel like I don't want to mess this up? That's not luck. That's earned value in action. The best part? This trigger doesn't just make him chase you. It makes him respect, prioritize, and protect his connection with you, because he believes it's worth something he had to grow into. In the next part of this video, we'll show you exactly how to embody the high-value shift that builds on this trigger and keeps his attention locked in. Get ready, because you're about to stop being an option and start being the standard. So let's get into the shift that changes everything. The shift from trying to be liked to fully owning your worth. Most women are never taught how powerful this is. Instead, we're taught to overextend, overgive, and overthink, hoping someone will see our value and choose us. But when you flip that dynamic, when you realize that you are the one who does the choosing, everything changes. Being a high-value woman doesn't mean being cold or unattainable. It means you walk through the world with the unshakable belief that you are enough, exactly as you are. You no longer chase validation. You don't need to prove anything. You're not anxiously waiting for texts or analyzing every little shift in his tone. You have better things to do, and he can feel that. This isn't arrogance. It's quiet, confident energy. You're not desperate for attention, because your life already fulfills you. You're not emotionally available to just anyone, because you're selective with your time, your heart, and your presence. That kind of self-respect is rare and irresistible. What men find most attractive isn't effort. It's mystery. It's groundedness. It's a woman who is emotionally in control, not in a cold, defensive way, but in a soft, warm, self-possessed way. You're not reacting to him. You're responding to what feels right for you. And when he senses that, he starts seeing you differently. You're no longer just another option. You become the standard. This shift happens when you stop looking for potential and start watching behavior. You don't give your time to someone who sends mixed signals. You don't chase closure. You don't settle for half love or half effort. You simply choose to protect your peace and attract what aligns with it. And something amazing happens when you live this way. The men who weren't serious fall off fast, and that's a good thing. But the man who's ready, the one who respects your light and your power, he leans in. Not because you convinced him, not because you played a game, but because your energy told him the truth. I don't need you to complete me. I'm already whole. If you want to join this life, bring your best. That's the shift. That's the magic. When you stop chasing and start choosing, you become the kind of woman a man fears losing. Not because you threatened to leave, but because you've shown him you never needed him to begin with. Coming up next, I'll show you real examples of this in action. Exactly what women did, how men responded, and how you can apply the same energy starting today. Trust me, once you see the results of this shift, there's no going back. You're about to set a new standard for him and for yourself. Now that we've talked about the high value shift, let's get into what it looks like in real life. Because theory is great, but real transformation happens when you see it in action. And the truth is, this works. Not in some fantasy world, but right here, with real women who made simple shifts and saw major changes. Take Emily, for example. She had been seeing a guy for a few months, Things started hot and heavy, and then he started pulling away. Late replies, cancelled plans, energy shift. Old her would have panicked, sent a long emotional message, tried to fix it. But instead, she paused. She didn't text first. She focused on her routine. When he texted 3 days later with a casual "Hey, what's up?" she didn't ignore him, but she also didn't jump in. She waited a few hours, replied with warmth but no pressure. No "where have you been?" No emotional dumping. Just peace. Within a week, he asked to see her. When they met, he told her, "I thought I lost you, and I realized I didn't want to." That's not manipulation. That's emotional maturity. She didn't chase. She created space for him to feel the loss and decide what he really wanted. Or Jasmine. She was dating someone who always left plans open-ended. He'd say, "Let's maybe hang out Friday," and she'd rearrange her life to wait around for the maybe. After watching this shift, she stopped. The next time he said, "Let's see," she responded with, "Let me know by Thursday. I have plans otherwise." No drama, no bitterness, just boundaries. He didn't reply in time, so she moved on with her weekend. A few days later, he messaged her saying, "You've got this confidence now. I didn't realize how much I liked that." He became consistent, clear, and started making actual plans. Why? Because she trained him how to treat her. Not with lectures, but with action. Then there's Mia. Her relationship was in a gray area. No title, no clarity. She decided to stop over-investing. She pulled her energy back, didn't initiate contact, and filled her days with purpose and peace. The silence was loud, and in that silence, he realized he missed her. Not because she begged him to care, but because he felt the absence of her energy. A few weeks later, he came back, not just with words, but with a commitment. That's the power of embodying value, not performing it. Each of these women did the same thing in different ways. They stopped trying to be chosen and started choosing themselves. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to play games, but you do have to trust that the right person will never need convincing, only clarity. And when you lead with quiet confidence, people either rise to meet you or reveal they were never meant for your table. Next, I'll show you exactly how to start making this shift in your own life, one powerful choice at a time. By now, you're starting to understand your value, your power, and the shift that gets him to chase. But just as important as what you do is what you don't do. Because the truth is, even high-value women can fall into patterns that quietly sabotage their power, often without even realizing it. Let's talk about the biggest mistakes that cost women their influence, their peace, and their place in a man's mind. First, over-communicating. Now, we've all been told communication is key, and it is, but only when it's mutual, consistent, and emotionally safe. If you're constantly explaining yourself, clarifying your feelings, or asking for reassurance, you're not communicating, you're chasing. And the more you chase, the less he values the connection. Not because you're not worthy, but because you're leading with emotional labor instead of emotional boundaries. Another major mistake, filling the silence. When he starts pulling back, your first instinct might be to close the gap, texting more, planning more, initiating everything. But that silence is important. It tells you everything. If you rush to fix it, you never get to see whether he would step up on his own. And trust me, the right man will. But only if you give him the space to. A third mistake is mistaking chemistry for compatibility. That butterflies in the stomach feeling, it can be intoxicating. But if he's inconsistent, unclear, or emotionally unavailable, those butterflies are just anxiety in disguise. High-value women feel the spark, but they pause long enough to ask, is this real, or is this just familiar chaos? Don't ignore your intuition just because your attraction is loud. Another trap is making exceptions for someone's potential. Maybe you see glimpses of the man he could be. If only he healed, if only he stepped up, if only he grew. But the truth is, your heart doesn't beat for potential. You deserve someone who shows up as the man you deserve, not as a project that drains your energy. If you have to convince someone to value you, it's not love, it's self-abandonment. Lastly, don't make the mistake of losing yourself in the process. A lot of women unknowingly put their life on pause once a man enters the picture. Your hobbies slow down, your routines shift, your schedule becomes more flexible. But here's the truth. The very things that made you magnetic in the beginning are the things he needs to keep seeing. Keep living your life. Keep showing up fully. The moment you dim your light to fit someone's comfort zone is the moment you start to disappear, not just from his eyes, but from your own. These mistakes are common, but they're not permanent. Awareness is everything. Once you know what to look for, you get to choose differently. And those choices, the small ones, the quiet ones, they build the version of you that no one forgets. Up next, we're diving into how to apply all of this energy in your daily life, so it becomes second nature. Let's keep going. So let's be honest. Getting a man interested isn't the hard part. Anyone can spark short-term attraction. A smile, some flirtation, a great outfit, that part's easy. But long-term obsession, the kind where he thinks about you constantly, prioritizes you, and never wants to risk losing you, that's a whole different game. And it's not about playing hard to get. It's about becoming a woman who captures his mind, not just his eyes. Long-term obsession starts with emotional impact, not drama, not chaos, but depth. When you become a woman who makes a man feel something beyond surface-level desire, you stay in his head long after you leave the room. That means showing up authentically, not being perfect, but being real, vulnerable, warm, grounded. When you're fully yourself without over-explaining or oversharing, it invites him into something genuine, something he can't fake or find anywhere else. But here's the real secret. A man becomes obsessed with a woman he can't quite predict, not because she's inconsistent, but because she's ever evolving. He doesn't feel like he has you figured out in the first week. He sees that you have layers, dreams, opinions, passions, independence. That's what hooks him. Not because you're mysterious on purpose, but because your life is rich, and he wants access to it. He realizes that being with you is a journey, not a destination. That's what keeps his curiosity and his commitment alive. And don't underestimate the power of emotional safety. Obsession grows in a space where a man feels like he can be himself, where he's inspired, not pressured. You're not trying to change him or fix him. You see him clearly and still hold your own standard. That combination of acceptance and boundaries is magnetic. He feels respected, seen, challenged, in the best way. That's the kind of energy that makes him crave more of you, not less. Also, obsession is sustained when you maintain your identity. Too many women lose themselves once they feel chosen. They stop nurturing the parts of themselves that existed before him. But the real magic, it's in the woman who keeps glowing, the one who keeps showing up for her own life, the one who isn't afraid to grow, even if it means outgrowing people who can't come with her. That's the kind of energy a man can't look away from and doesn't want to lose. And let's be real, physical attraction might bring him close, but emotional intelligence keeps him there. The way you respond instead of react, the way you choose peace over pressure, the way you express your desires without demand, that's what separates a momentary crush from lasting obsession. So no, you don't need to chase. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be unforgettable. And that starts with owning your power, living your truth, and refusing to settle for anything less than you deserve. Coming up, I'll show you how to lock this energy in daily. So obsession isn't something you chase, it's something you attract naturally. Let's talk about something that most people crave, but few truly understand: emotional intimacy. It's not just about deep talks or being vulnerable, it's about feeling seen, safe, and understood. Not just during the highs, but especially during the lows. And when it's real, emotional intimacy becomes the glue that holds everything else together. Here's the truth. Most people don't say out loud. Physical attraction might get his attention, but emotional intimacy is what keeps him invested. It's what makes a man feel like you're home. It's what makes him come back when he's overwhelmed, when the world is too loud, when no one else gets it, but you do. That feeling doesn't come from how much you talk. It comes from how present you are when you're with him. It's built in the quiet moments, the soft eye contact, the way you listen without interrupting, the way you hold space for him to be fully human, flaws and all. A lot of women think emotional intimacy means oversharing, trauma dumping, or being available 24/7. But real intimacy isn't about draining each other. It's about deepening connection through mutual safety. You let him see you, not just the polished, perfect version, but the honest, messy, beautiful truth of who you are. And you invite him to do the same, without judgment, without pressure. What men rarely say out loud is how rare it is to find a woman who knows how to hold space emotionally. So many of them were taught to tough it out, to not express too much, to bottle things up. But when you create a space where he feels emotionally safe, not babied, but respected, he lets his guard down. And once he feels safe with you emotionally, he starts bonding on a level that's impossible to fake. That's when he starts choosing you not just out of attraction, but out of trust. But let's be clear, emotional intimacy also requires standards. It's not about accepting bad behavior or being endlessly patient while someone avoids growth. It's about building a connection where honesty is met with compassion, where needs are expressed without fear, and where you both feel free to be real, not perfect, but present. You don't have to agree on everything, but you do need to feel safe enough to say anything. And the irony is, when emotional intimacy is strong, physical connection becomes deeper too. Affection becomes more meaningful. Conversations flow with ease. Arguments turn into growth. That's when you go from surface level to soul level. And that's what creates lasting connection, not just a temporary spark. So if you've ever wondered why some relationships feel hollow while others feel like magic, this is the reason. Emotional intimacy is what turns love from a feeling into a foundation. And when it's real, neither of you will want to let it go. In the final section, I'll show you exactly how to invite this kind of depth into your relationships and keep it alive for the long haul. So now that you've got the big picture, the psychology, the energy shifts, the real life examples, let's land this with some final practical tips you can apply right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because transformation doesn't come from information alone, it comes from action. And even one shift can change everything. First, stop reaching out first for the next 7 days. Just observe what happens when you create space. Does he step up? Does he notice? Do you find yourself reaching for your phone out of habit or need? Awareness alone will change the game. And remember, you're not punishing him, you're prioritizing your energy. Next, clean up your digital space. Mute or unfollow anyone who makes you feel anxious, unworthy, or like you're constantly comparing. Curate your feed to reflect the woman you're becoming, empowered, grounded, magnetic. What you consume affects what you believe. Feed your mind with proof that high standards are not too much. They're your protection. Third, get back in touch with what lights you up. Go to that yoga class. Start the passion project you've been delaying. Make plans without waiting for him to invite you first. When you build a life you love, you stop settling for people who don't love you right. And yes, he will feel that shift. Fourth, practice the pause. Before you reply, before you react, before you chase clarity, pause. Breathe. Ask, does this action come from power or from panic? That moment of stillness is where the high-value version of you makes decisions. And finally, affirm this daily. I do not chase, I attract. What belongs to me will align with my peace, not disturb it. Because that energy, that quiet confidence, that's what keeps a man thinking about you long after you've left the room. Start small. Start now. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. The shift happens the second you decide that you're worth more than temporary affection or inconsistent attention. You're not asking for too much. You're finally asking for what you deserve. And trust me, when you make these shifts, he won't just chase you. He'll never want to let you go.